This is TWiT.
It is definitely time to, as I said, catch up on your patch up for Linux. We talked previously about a not yet really made clear vulnerability in a module of a number of desktop Linuxes called systemd. It's not in the core base Linux, but it's added to a number of the desktop environments in order to help sort of create the desktop, get all kinds of different widgets and things loaded and get the system started up. A number of the more popular Linux desktop distros have adopted this. Well, just last week, a company called Capsule 8, which is they're a U.S. cybersecurity company, published a working proof of concept, which unfortunately weaponized 2 of the 3 vulnerabilities which were reported late last year by Qualys. And we talked about it at the time. There wasn't much information, and that was on purpose because we didn't want this to happen, what just has. On the other hand, it's been a couple months, and hopefully people are keeping their Linux distros current. If not, as I said, now would be a good time to catch up your patch up. On the 9th, Qualys posted the following detailed report. Their report was titled System Down, a Systemd Journal D exploit. And they said, we discovered 3 vulnerabilities in systemd-journal D. So this is a logging component of the system daemon module. There are 3 CVEs that have been assigned, ending in for 2018, ending in 1684, 16864, 16865, and 16866. The first 2 are memory corruptions where the attacker can control allocs, and the third one is an information leak which results from an out-of-bounds read. So in researching it, thanks to the audit trail that we have on Linux modules, Qualys was able to see that the first of these, the 16864, was originally introduced in April of 2013 in the systemd version 203, and it became exploitable in February of 2016 in systemd version 230, or build, I guess, version 230. They said we developed a proof of concept for that 16864 that gains EIP, that's the extended IP or the extended instruction pointer control on a 386 machine, on an x86 architecture. The second one, 685, was introduced in December of 2011 with systemd version 38 and became exploitable in April of 2013 with version 201. Then the third one, which is 16866, was introduced in June of 2015 with systemd version 221 and was inadvertently fixed in August of 2018. So Qualys says we developed an exploit for 16865 and 16866 that obtains a local root shell in 10 minutes on an x86 architecture and 70 minutes on a 64-bit machine on average. They said we will publish our exploit in the near future. So they said, to the best of our knowledge, all systemd-based Linux distributions are vulnerable, but SUSE Linux Enterprise 15, OpenSUSE Leap 15.0, and Fedora 28 and 29 are not exploitable because their user space is compiled with GCC's fstack clash protection. Okay, so systemd is used by Arch Linux, CentOS, CoreOS, Debian, is it Magia? Looks like Magia.
Manja. No, I don't know.
Manja.
No.
Yeah,
I
don't know. Good. Yeah, it's spelled Mageia. So maybe it's a
Magia.
Magia, yeah. Mint, Red Hat Enterprise, Solus, and Ubuntu. So, of course, the big ones there are Debian and Ubuntu. And I did have Fedora in my list, but at least 28 and 29 are not exploitable. So the point is, this is a module which, if it has not been recently patched, is subject to a local vulnerability. It's worth noting that this is almost certainly only of local concern. That the 18685 is a vulnerability triggered. I'm going to go into this a little bit because it's interesting how we fit these together. This is another example of individual vulnerabilities not being a great cause of concern, but then you mix them, you combine them in order to get what the hacker does in order to get what they're looking for. So 16865 is a vulnerability triggered by code in the System D's logging software, that's the journal D, that allocates temporary memory to contain a log entry without first checking that the request is of sensible size. This means that you're able to allocate, basically ask it to log something that's megabytes in size. And in fact, that's how they found it. They were actually, Qualys was actually doing some research in something else and had some reason to actually produce a log entry of that size, like a dump of some sort. Excuse me. And it crashed the system. And they said, whoops, what crashed? And that's, of course, where these things all begin. So what this allows for is ready code execution, but that's thwarted by the presence of ASLR, address space layout randomization, which, of course, as we know, prevents you or dramatically improves increases the difficulty of exploiting because it's randomizing where things are located in memory. Fortunately or not, the second bug, 16866, allows specially formatted text sent to the system log to cause this same system D to write out a message containing data from parts of memory that the user is not supposed to see. So this is a classic information disclosure vulnerability, which, again, would okay, if it's something running in your own machine, is that really a big deal? Well, that allows the attacker the information required to then bypass address space layout randomization and exploit the previous vulnerability to run code of their choosing to accomplish whatever malignant goal they may have. So it's not clear that a remote attacker would be able to cause the log to be written or essentially to exploit this remotely, but it's certainly the case that something running on your own machine could. So the idea would be, if this weren't patched, and now what's happened is last week, full weaponized proof of concept code exists. There is also, I'm seeing just sort of in the air this year, a growing focus on Linux attacks. Linux has so far, and sort of compared to Windows, enjoyed, relative obscurity in the hacker community. That really does seem to be changing now. Maybe because Linux is being adopted on an international scale, as we were talking about last week, Leo. It's like, well, okay, why is it that Russia and China are using Windows? That just seems nuts. And of course, as we know, they're moving away from that to their own typically Linux-based platform. So maybe that's why we're beginning to see more of this. But in any event,
some would say that one of the flaws is it's become more monolithic. More and more applications or distros are using System D, which is not, that's a little controversial. I just looked at my System D, and it's version 232. These are fairly old versions they're talking about. I think. Oh, no, 230 is vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm on unfortunately the Debian stable version, and Debian doesn't quickly update these, and so it doesn't look like there's an update available. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, so good. I'm glad you checked. Yeah. And for our listeners, again, I can't say for sure that somebody outside your system couldn't force logging. I don't think they could obtain the results of the logging, which is what is necessary for the ASLR bypass. But just if in general you're lazy about, deliberately lazy, as many of us are now on Windows, like, I don't think I want that feature update yet because it hasn't been going so well for people. Just if in general you're not in a hurry to change things, under the if it's not broke, don't fix it approach, which I certainly understand, being somebody who just recently left XP, then now would be a good time to say, well, let me just check to see if there's something new, or maybe give it a month. But, don't give it forever, because this thing could end up biting you.